You know, there's a quote that goes, "In high-stakes corporate advisory, the primary failure point of strategic proposals is not a lack of vision, but rather the gap between ideation and execution." And honestly, that right there, that is our situation. And frankly, it's our complication. Because, let's be real, far too often we see these brilliant blue sky ideas that look absolutely incredible on a whiteboard, but then they completely collapse the second they hit the real world of compliance, budgets, and local market realities. So that leads us right into the core question we're tackling today. How can advisory teams seamlessly integrate that high-level strategic idealism with the absolute non-negotiable demands of operational practicalism? Put simply, how on earth do you take a massive corporate vision and make it mathematically and legally bulletproof? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're cracking open the business case Bible. We are going to reveal the exact precise tools, the frameworks, and the behavioral protocols used in elite corporate advisory and world-class case competitions to turn those abstract concepts into undeniable, boots-on-the-ground operational realities. It's going to be a fun one. Now, practicing what we preach, we'll use the bottom line upfront method to give you our roadmap. We're going to hit strategy essentials, team dynamics, argument structure, financial success, and finally, the execution roadmap. But we are really going to zero in on those strategy essentials, team dynamics, and the financial success pieces today. Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, Strategy Essentials. To build a truly world-class recommendation, you have to use the Evidence-Based Management, or EBMgt Framework. Think of it kind of like a pipeline that forces teams out of the clouds of strategic idealism and straight into operational practicalism. The core philosophy here is rational pragmatism. You literally cannot just rely on generic market assumptions. Instead, your strategy has to be grounded entirely in empirical data and local market insight. It's absolutely crucial if you want your grand ideas to actually survive contact with reality. So this pipeline operates in 4 strict steps. First up, you formulate precise managerial questions, meaning you have to move past vague prompts and get to exact operational queries. Second, you acquire empirical evidence. Third, you critically appraise that data for local relevance. And finally, you integrate those insights with local regulatory and financial constraints. Honestly, if your pet project doesn't survive this empirical pipeline, well, it simply doesn't make the cut. Moving on to Section 2, Elite Interdisciplinary Team Dynamics. Look, competitive case solving is basically an exercise in extreme cognitive endurance. To survive sprints that can range anywhere from 3 to 24 hours, world-class teams rely on distinct psychological archetypes. You've got the strategist, right? A holistic thinker who maps out the big market opportunity. Then you have the analyst, a highly analytical, detail-oriented wizard who basically owns the quantitative models and translates that vision into cold, hard numbers. And lastly, you have the communicator, who designs the visual arguments and structures the whole narrative. But here's the real secret. What separates an elite team from just a good one is constructive friction. They decentralize their cognition. Disagreements aren't personal at all. Assumptions are challenged based purely on data and logic, refining the strategy until it's practically unbreakable. All right, Section 3, Structuring the Winning Arguments. And this brilliantly illustrates the gold standard of executive communication, the Minto Pyramid principle. Because let's face it, senior executives do not want suspense. They don't want to sit through 15 minutes of build-up just to finally hear your conclusion. So using the BLUF strategy, bottom line up front, you deliver your clear, actionable recommendation immediately at the top. Boom, right there. Below that are your supporting pillar arguments, usually strategic, financial, and operational. And forming the base of all that is the empirical data and the financial models that actually prove those pillars. It's top-down, it's hierarchical, and it is fiercely logical. Now, to hook that executive audience before you even deliver the BLUF, you use the SCQA framework: situation, complication, question, answer. And actually, if you remember how I opened this explainer just a few minutes ago, I used this exact framework on you. See what I did there? It establishes immediate relevance, and it just drives the narrative forward from the very first breath. Which brings us to Section 4, Engineering Ultimate Financial Success. This is where things get really real. 38.4%? I mean, wow. That is a massive projected internal rate of return, or IRR, pulled directly from our source's financial matrix. A number like that grabs the judge's attention immediately. It represents immense value creation. But, and this is a huge but, you absolutely cannot just invent a number like that out of thin air. You have to undeniably prove it mathematically. And this is exactly where the analyst earns their keep. The ultimate lie detector for literally any strategy is the net present value calculation over a 3 to 5 year horizon. The analyst has to model out every single cash flow, heavily discount it by the cost of capital, and then subtract the massive initial capex. It's a completely ruthless tool. If the math doesn't work here, the strategy dies here. No exceptions. But engineering financial success also means neutralizing failure. Elite teams don't just, identify risks, they actively mitigate them using a 5x5 enterprise risk management matrix, which plots probability right against impact. If you have a high impact risk, like, say, a major supply chain disruption or a massive capital cost overrun, you must provide a concrete mitigation strategy. We're talking actionable solutions like implementing dual sourcing or negotiating fixed price turnkey contracts, all to protect those precious financial returns. Now, picture this. Imagine proposing a brilliant foreign entry strategy into Indonesia, but you miss one absolutely critical legal detail. A foreign-owned limited liability company, a PTPMA, actually requires a minimum capital investment of 10 billion Indonesian rupiah. If you miss that detail in your budget, your entire strategy instantly falls apart the second a judge scrutinizes it. This is exactly why financial success requires strict operational alignment. And here's another massive operational constraint. Government Regulation 49 of 2025. This updated the labor laws and completely shifted minimum wage formulas. Because of this, industrial hubs in West Java, like Bekasi, actually now have higher minimum wages than the capital, Jakarta. So, proposing a manufacturing setup in Bekasi purely because it's traditionally known as a low-cost region, that is a dangerous, outdated trap. Your financial models have to reflect these highly specific, localized realities to be credible at all. Okay, bringing us to our final section, Section 5, the Phased Execution Roadmap. Because at the end of the day, executives need to know what happens on Monday morning. This Phased Execution Roadmap takes us from day 1 all the way to day 90. In the first 30 days, we secure executive approval and tackle the legal setup, like getting our business identification number via Indonesia's digital licensing portal, the OSSRBA. By day 60, we are securing supplier agreements and aligning those labor contracts. And by day 90, we initiate pilot testing and hit our commercial launch benchmarks. This is how you prove genuine, undeniable execution capability. So let's quickly summarize the core, absolute, non-negotiable commandments we've uncovered today. To survive elite scrutiny, you must lead with the bottom line up front. Back every single projection with hard empirical data. Always include a phased implementation roadmap. And crucially, verify all local legal and tax compliance. So, I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Take a look at your own work, your own projects, your own proposals. Are your strategic proposals merely academic visions, or have you done the rigorous, rational pragmatism required to make them mathematically proven, legally compliant operational realities? The gap between ideation and execution is where most people fail, but with these tools, it's exactly where you are going to win. Thanks for joining this explainer, and we'll see you next time.